Now this is unfinished to the upside. Very much unfinished to the upside. Doesn't quite look finished to the downside either, but we have weakness at the bid here, weakness at the bid here. But you see this volume bar that's building out right here at 1910.25. This is showing that we do have some sellers absorbing, but we're getting acceptance higher. Remember, volume means acceptance. We just had VPOC move up. I would be looking for maybe a few ticks more beyond this level. But when you saw that bar jump out like that, what that means is that the sellers are holding in this area. Profile doesn't look quite done to the upside and not to the downside either. So my trade scenario in my plan was if price opens above 1906, and that should have been 1906.75, I'll look for a potential long on a test down to 1906.75, and then a potential short around that 1375.14. Price comes through that area, my next short will be at 1617 area, which are levels that we talked about this morning. So I'm still looking for a long down in this area. And I'm going to be using this chart, the 6-4 order flow chart, to provide the information for me of whether or not I'm going to get in. Ray, in terms of long-term and mid-term, I'm looking at the swings. Remind me a little bit later and I'll go through that. But my mid-term and long-term are really, let me just put it this way, like with the ES, if it takes 4 months for it to rotate in an area, then my midterm may be 4 months. I want to see all the data in that rotation. If it's 3 weeks before it moves on to another level, then that midterm may be 3 weeks. So I care more about the overall swings than I do specific time. So in general, I would consider short-term a day to a week, and then midterm in general from over a week, 2 weeks to several months, and then longer term 3+ months. Now our settlement close was at 5 1/4 yesterday, and VPOC was at 5. There's 7 1/4. I was looking for a little bit more strength at the bid, or at the offer rather, to get into that trade. Looking at the profile, almost looks done to the bottom. Like to see one more tick down to 1907 at least. So what I'm looking for now is I want to see strength back into the bid and I want to see continued strength back into the bid here. We have VPOC up at 1909, and I want to see price start climbing to 1909. So one of the things that I can do is start looking to, it's still early, so this could move around a lot. Look to take some off in front of VPOC, but this is the trade that I wanted from last night, and it's set up because the overnight confirmed it. Now the profile looks finished to the downside. If this breaks through, if this starts breaking through with a lot of volume down here, I'm not going to want to stay into this real long, because this may start to become an unfair high. You can see the activity back at the bid here growing. So if we get a lot of growth here at 1907 at the bid, I'll give this to see how this goes. I've got a point now. VPOC just shifted down to 1908. So that means one of two things. That means this is the other side stepping into shut movement off to the downside, and I would expect to see price start moving up again. If it can't and it starts moving back down into the bid, what this means is that this is accepting price a little lower, and we can start to expect price come through this 1907.67 area. Strength at the offer, yes. Looking for strength at the offer through here. And I want to see continued strength. The other thing I want to see is I want to see VPOC shift back up to 1909. Don't want to see that strength back down at the bid. Do want to see buyers holding. So what this is saying is that we still have sellers who have interest. Now at this point, what I could start to do is potentially, with all of this activity at the bid, start to manage my risk. Because once I see all this red, doesn't mean the trade's not going to work, but it has to tell you that this is additional risk. All right, so we've got a significant amount. You got to take the shot where the print tells you to take that shot, right? And it came up and could not get through this level. Like I said, if it can't get through this, this was VPOC at 1909. If it can't get back up through here and establish VPOC, then this level starts becoming at risk if we start seeing strength back into the bid. So what I'm going to do is go back to my news. Okay, I don't see anything in there specifically right now. So you can see the low volume area here again, still at 1906.75. Lot of activity back in at the bid here. So my expectation is we're going to come back down towards 1905.25, which is the close from yesterday. And I have 1905 as VPOC. And this isn't giving me really any pullback to get in. So there's settlement. Now, I'm not taking any trade. What I want to see if this was just a close, kind of a fill the gap. Nope. And there's VPOC from yesterday. You can still see the strength back down on the bid, and the profile shows that this isn't done yet to the downside. Now, now that I can see that, if price does come back up to this 650, 675, and the print gives me the indication, I would look to short that level. Thanks, Alan. And it may not give me that opportunity. So what I'm doing, what I need to do quickly is identify, let me get my other volume profile up here. All right. Okay, we're coming back up to this level. As looking for a little bit more strength and relative weakness in the offer, strength at the bid. And you can see how that came back up. There was some strength back at the bid here. I was looking for a little bit more weakness at the offer. All right, so what I'm seeing right now is down here there was pretty significant strength at the bid. These last two times down right now, these sellers have not followed through yet, but this is unfinished to the downside. So my expectation doesn't mean it will happen. My expectation is that we'll see this maybe another tick. So what I did is I created this. Here's yesterday's profile, and I'm looking at VPOC at 1905. Here's yesterday's profile. Here's VPOC at 1905. You can see the low volume area from today at 1907,675, which is what we expect. And if I start getting rotation around 1905 and we start building volume out here, then there's the very real possibility that this will follow its conclusion all the way down. This wasn't finished yesterday at 1899.75. That this will follow to a conclusion to the bottom of this this rotation. The closing swing low from yesterday was right here at 1903.25. So we have VPOC shift down to 1906. Again, when I'm watching the print, a little bit better finish here. And we did tick down into that level. So here's my issue with just taking a short, and the short would have worked off of here for a couple of points, as much as that long worked there, is that this is still a low volume area for the day at 675.07. So this is still a key level for me, but I show weakness and weakness, and that could change any time, but the bid is showing weak at both of the bottoms of these probes. And now we have a probe higher, and this print 68 by 436 tells me we're likely to tick up at least another, and we're still getting strength at the bid. So let's see what happens here. So I could take this short, and this would be, so what I'm going to do is knock that down. This would be the setup that I'm looking for in terms of a short. This inherently tells me that there is risk. The weakness at the bid tells me that there is risk. Doesn't mean the trade won't work, but it tells me that there is some additional risk. And what I would be looking for is the next time, if I got into that trade, the next time down, I didn't take a market order because of where price was at. I would have been in at 1906, and I don't want to be that far away from this because I want to be able to control my stop. So I'm going to take this off simply because in this probe down, I've got more weakness at the bid. Doesn't mean the trade won't work, but this is what I was talking about the other day, is it inherently tells me that there's additional risk as there's more activity at the bid. The profile would suggest a short here. The other thing to consider is if price does pop up through here, then this isn't quite finished to the upside as well, and we could see price just continue to move higher. So the additional risk by the weakness at the bid, 1, 2, 3 times down, is I did an assessment and said there's risk there, and it's not one that I want to take at this point. Does that make sense what I'm looking at in these prints at the bid? I can see weakness at the bid. So I could have taken this trade and, taken another point off, but I'm looking for something more than that. Here's 07. We're coming through here, but it's not like it's, the volume is crazy. And, it's a good thing I didn't take that trade because now it's come through. I would have been stopped out on that trade. So I can see activity here, a pretty good activity at the offer right here at 1907.75. When I look at the volume profile, I still have a low volume area here at 675. And remember up here at 1025 is where we started to see some sellers. So my next trade is potentially a long back down here. Potentially a long back down here. And if these sellers start getting taken out, remember from the narrative, my target is still up around that 1375 because the last swing high from yesterday was up around that level, 1375. We have it right here to 14. So, and this is where it dropped in the overnight or in the pre-market. It hit 1913.75 in the pre-market to the tick, which was the last, not the last swing high. The last swing high I had marked closing swing high at 575. It hit 1375 in the overnight in the pre-market here, and then that's and then started coming down from there. So when I look at my potential, right, and I'm still managing to a certain number for the day. When I look at my potential, there's still potential back up to this 1375, 14, if not higher. So this could have been an area where I would look to take a breakout at 725, 750 because of all the weakness down at the bid. This would have been a good example, a good opportunity or higher probability opportunity for a breakout. The issue for me is that we're so close to this low volume area that I would not want to see it, pop up a couple of ticks and drop a little lower. But in terms of overall probability, after all of this weakness, it's coming back up through this low volume area. It is still a possibility. So now as I look at this, I see strength at the offer, weakness at the bid. The temptation for me would be, or anybody, would be really strong to go long with this combination right here and to say, oh, that's it. That's where we're coming to. However, if I get in here, there is a realistic possibility that this will rotate back down to this 1907, 675 level. So if I'm a risk manager first, then what I have to consider is if I get in down, if the print tells me to get in long down at 1907, 7.25, 675, down in this area, my ability to manage my risk significantly improves. If I get into the trade here at 0850 or 0825, I could do that because it looks like the bid's getting weak. Looks like it's getting weak here again. But now what I have to do is I need to give this trade almost 2 points. And if sellers decide they're gonna retest this area and jump back down today's VPOC and it bounces off of VPOC, then I'm down 2 points on the trade. And as a risk manager, I just don't want to do that. So everything right now in terms of the print is suggesting that and this is the objective part. Everything in the print is telling me that this is a good area to go long, and it very well may be. I may miss this trade. But as a risk manager first, I have to consider that my better risk management is down here. Does that make sense what I'm showing you? Question, I like the retest level approach personally. I do too. But do I consider breakouts under certain conditions as probable? Yes, this is one of them. This was an example of where I would consider a breakout. Because we had so much weakness, and in the profile, you see the interest waning down here in the profile. So my point is, if it was going to come through here, price was most likely coming back up to this high volume area to 1909, 1909 quarter. And there it is. So we have a little bit of a wall here. Would prefer 1907.25. Oh, I couldn't even move my target. Sorry, I looked away at another chart. My goal was to move my targets higher. Sorry, I was looking over at another chart. I mean, I'm not sorry for making profit, but my goal was to take one off back up here and then take my next one off around If the print told me to do that, it's not telling me to take that off yet. And then look to see if we can't get back up to this 1375, 1350 level. That's a good question. Why do I have my ATM so low to start with? I need to change that. I normally, when I take the trade, I normally am just focused on the chart, on this chart, and so I'm able to move my target and manage it pretty quick. And the one thing for me is I should move my target, and it looks like we may be getting another long right now. My stop I usually will keep, but what I don't know based on the auction is, if I get in with 3, then or 5, what's the most logical place for me to start scaling, and if I'm going to scale 2 or 3 or 1, and how am I exactly I'm going to manage that trade. But I'm not complaining. Yeah, absolutely, Ben. It's easier to have it higher and drag it down. You're exactly right. On this ATM, it's set pretty tight, so I just need to change. But I'm normally pretty effective at managing my targets and my stop. So here would be another opportunity. What I'm watching is activity grow at the bid here, 681.87. So what I don't see in the auction is that sellers or activity to the bid is really relenting yet. Doesn't mean this level won't work and the trade won't work to the upside, but I don't see that yet. And remember, I told you I'm watching the prints above as well. Okay, that moved pretty quick for me. I took that trade off because of the weakness here at the bid, or at the offer rather. All right, I'm looking away from this chart right now, so if I miss this trade, I want to see it. What I really kind of want to see here is a stop run, and then price pop back up. Back down to settlement to close from yesterday. All right, pretty good volume through this area. I'm going to keep my mouse down here, wait to see what happens. I was looking at a potential for price to come through here, but the stop run I was looking for would be down to about 1906, 0575, and then it continued lower. Interesting auction this morning. Hold on one second, please.